I really dislike the fact that the gaming community isn't punishing companies for milking the consumer. I mean, corporations in the video gaming world, they want to work as little as possible and then sell you a product while charging you as much as possible. And gamers are okay with this. In fact, if you complain, people will call you out for complaining. There is no consumer backlash anymore to punish companies for being too greedy. People just want to open their wallets and pay as much as they can while receiving as little as possible. So let me give you an example with Desperados. Now, I was really excited about this game because I loved the Commando series when I was a kid. It's stealth real-time strategy. It was very outside the box when it came out in the ways of game development. You see, instead of a strategy where you gather resources, build bases, and train units, this one has you just have 4 or 5 dudes in a mission. And they each have their own different abilities. And you have to complete the mission while making sure that not one of your single units dies. And this game spawned several spin-offs, one of which is Desperados. It's a game set in a Wild West setting where you take control of a couple of characters with different abilities, and the same idea applies. You have to finish the mission, making sure that not one of your characters gets killed. And the game focuses a lot on stealth. I mean, you get to see the vision range of enemy units so you can plan around and make sure that they don't spot your characters. You try to take them out one at a time using your various abilities, and then hide the bodies in bushes or throw them off cliffs so no one can be the wiser. And if you fail, they sound an alarm and guards come out, and there is little to no way you can put on any meaningful resistance because you only control 2 or 3 characters and there's dozens of guards. So you have to run, you have to hide, you have to use stealth, you have to plan out very carefully your next move. So why don't I like Desperados 3? Why is it that I'm so upset against a game that received not only critical acclaim, but was heavily embraced by gamers? And a lot of people like it on the forum. The reason I hate it is just, it's a blatant reskin of Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun. They try absolutely nothing in order to make it stand up on its own. They don't even give anything new to Desperados 3 other than a little bit of polish, a little bit of updated graphics, and remove some of the bugs from Blades of Shogun, as well as making sure that it has like some life quality improvements. Like, let me show you just how blatant the reskin is, and why is no one pointing this out? Why is no one complaining? Like, you're paying $49, I think, for a game that's a reskin. Like, back in the day, it would have been considered an expansion, and you'd have to pay at most $29 for it. Like, let me show you how blatant the reskin is, okay? Look at Hayato from Blades of the Shogun, and compare him with David Cooper from Desperados. The first ability is a sword that gives you a stealth kill. So you go into melee range and you kill an enemy quietly. David Cooper, first ability is a knife, which is a stealth kill. You go behind an enemy and you kill him quietly. Second ability for Hayato is a shuriken. You can kill an enemy quietly at range by throwing a shuriken, and then you have to go over his corpse in order to pick up the shuriken. For David Cooper, you can throw the knife quietly at an enemy for a stealth kill, and then you walk up over the enemy to pick up the shuriken. For Hayato, you have a stone, which you can throw next to an enemy to distract them, while David Cooper, you have a coin where you can throw it next to an enemy to distract them. It's literally the same character. It's literally the same thing. And you look at the other characters, they're all the same with very, very minor differences. Like, for example, you have the assassin girl, which first of all has like a melee kill, a melee weapon that you can use to kill enemies. Well, in Desperados, you can do literally the same thing, but you get an axe. And then she's got a whistle that call guards to her locations. Well, in Desperados, he just does the same thing. He whistles and calls enemies to his location. Then you get a trap. Same thing. I guess like the only thing in Desperados is now that you have like a couple more range weapons. Like the guy would have a shotgun, which would do some AoE damage. But other than that, all characters are literally the same. They barely added any new abilities. There's nothing new. It's just a reskin that's lazy and uninteresting. Like I played Blades of the Shogun before. I got bored of these abilities. Why couldn't you give me something new? Why couldn't you give some new abilities, or at least mix and match them before the characters? And the thing that I really hate about the game is that you don't really get to feel the vibe that you're in a Western setting. I mean, they should have focused more on firearm combat because it's the West. I mean, the weapons should do a little bit less noise so that you don't alert the guards every time, because I've been playing through the levels and very rarely do you actually get to use weapons because they're so noisy, and whenever you use them, you sound off an alarm. So you're very discouraged to use weapons besides maybe like the sniper rifle. But other than that, the game just feels like Blades of the Shogun. There's nothing that makes it stand out on its own. Even the types of enemy are the same. Like, you get the guys, instead of the guys with the straw hats, you get the guys with the poncho. Like, even the enemies are the same. And it's such a waste. I was really excited for this game. I really wanted to play it, but I've been playing Blades of the Shogun for so long that, to me, it made me get a little bit bored. I wanted something new, something refreshing. So I'm not saying that Desperados is a bad game by any way. I'm saying you shouldn't pay $49 for it. Like, they didn't work for $49. They do not deserve your money. They didn't put the effort for $49. Now, believe it or not, I want to say some good things about Desperados. Because it's not a bad game, as I mentioned. It's just that it's lazy. I like the level design. Like, for example, when you get to play in a swamp, it looks really gorgeous. Or when you're fighting at some mayor's villa, it looks great. And I like some of the new ways that you can ramp up the difficulty. Because in Blades of the Shogun, you could just save and load game and save and load game countless of times to the point where all of the challenges that you would face from playing the game would be removed. But here in Desperados, you actually have an option where you can limit the numbers of saves you have per level. So I limited to 5 saves, and then it adds back some of that fear and some of that dread that you're playing because you don't want your character to be discovered. It raises up the tension. It makes your heart pound again, which is what these games should actually be like. Like, you should be afraid that any wrong step is going to get your guys killed, because you don't have a lot of error and maneuverability in this game. One mistake and you can get the entire team in trouble. So I like the fact that in Desperados it allows you to ramp up the difficulty in that way. And I guess like that's pretty much it. Like, it's really the same game when you think about it. You just get some new levels. It's a reskin. The setting is now in the Wild West, but it still feels like the same setting in Blades of Shogun, because even though like that was in Japan, almost everyone had access to firearms. So like the enemies were still fighting you at range, just like they're getting to shoot at you in Desperados. Because I really feel as if a lot of potential was lost here. I mean, Desperados has a Wild West setting, right? They could have given you the ability to ride horses and fire from horseback while pulling all the guards away with one character doing that, and then you have like another character sneaking in. You could do this in Commandos, believe it or not. Like, you could drive tanks in a couple of missions, you could drive cars. They could have had so much into this game, and they just don't. And that's just one idea. And again, like, gun battle should have been a lot more prominent. You could even ramp up the difficulty by making the number of shots and bullets available more and more limited. But the guns should have made much less noise so that you can use them more often. But anyway, let me know what you think. What would you have added in order to make the Western setting stand out more and separated it from the Blades of Shogun setting? Which, you know, it just looks different, like the architecture of the buildings are different and that, but other than that, it just feels like the same game. So let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.